moments in life when everything you believe about fairness, effort, and reward just quietly falls apart. It doesn't happen all at once, but piece by piece, until you're left staring at the ruins of a life you thought was secure. Our story today begins in that uncomfortable space where suffering feels completely unearned and the silence from above feels louder than any answer could be. This is the story of Job. Now, Job wasn't reckless or arrogant or careless with his life. Far from it. He was known for his discipline, his generosity, and his deep devotion. His family was thriving, his business was respected, and his name carried real weight in his community. If there was ever a man who seemed protected by doing everything right, it was him. And that's what makes what happens next so deeply disturbing. The story opens in a way that's beyond our human perspective, in a heavenly realm where motives are tested, not explained. A challenge is raised. It's not about Job's behavior, but about his reasons. The question is simple, but it's unsettling. Would Job still trust God if all the comfort was stripped away? Would his faith remain if all the benefits suddenly disappeared? And just like that, without any warning, the experiment begins. Loss doesn't arrive gently. It comes in fast, it comes in layers, and it is absolutely unrelenting. In a single day, Job loses his wealth, his servants, and the entire work of his hands. Before the grief even has time to form, the next blow lands. His children are gone, all of them. In a single, horrifying moment, his entire future collapses into silence. Job does what we all do when words fail. He mourns, he grieves, he breaks. But he does not curse God, not because he understands what's happening, because understanding isn't available to him yet. He holds on. Then his own body turns against him. Pain spreads across his skin, agonizing sores replace his health, and any kind of rest becomes impossible. He's reduced to sitting in ashes, scraping his wounds with a piece of pottery, just clinging to his breath. The man who was once admired for his stability now becomes a public spectacle of suffering. And this is where the silence becomes unbearable. His wife speaks not out of cruelty, but from a place of pure exhaustion. She asks the question that so many think but are afraid to say out loud. Why hold on? Why stay faithful to a God who allows this kind of pain? Why not just end the suffering by letting go? Job refuses. Not because he feels strong, but because surrendering his faith now would mean admitting that none of it ever mattered in the first place. Then his friends arrive. At first, they do the absolute right thing. They just sit with him. They stay quiet. For 7 days and 7 nights, they allow his grief to exist without interruption, without judgment. But silence makes people deeply uncomfortable, and that discomfort demands an explanation. So, slowly, they begin to speak. They start searching for reasons, for patterns, for some hidden fault in Job's life. They suggest that suffering like this must be deserved, that this kind of pain always points back to some secret guilt. Their logic feels clean, maybe even comforting in a strange way, but it leaves no room for the possibility of innocence. It leaves no room for what Job is actually experiencing. Job listens, and then he responds. And he does not sanitize his pain for their comfort. He questions everything. He puts God on trial in his heart. He demands answers. He cries out, asking why the innocent suffer and why God remains completely silent through it all. This isn't rebellion. This is desperation. It's a man refusing to pretend that suffering makes sense when it so clearly does not. For chapter after chapter, the debate rages. There are arguments, accusations, and defenses. Everyone talks. Everyone has a theory. But God does not, until, suddenly, he does. And when God finally speaks, it is not with the explanations or apologies that Job and all of us expect. Instead, he asks questions. He asks Job questions about the foundation of the earth, about the limits of the oceans, about the movement of the stars, about forces so vast and complex they are far beyond human control. He doesn't justify the suffering, he reframes reality itself. And in that moment, Job realizes something deeply unsettling, but also strangely freeing. He realizes the universe is so much larger than human logic. Meaning doesn't always arrive as a neat set of answers. Some truths are just too vast, too magnificent to be explained in ways that feel fair to our limited minds, and somehow, that is enough. Job doesn't receive clarity, he receives perspective. He doesn't get reasons for his pain, he gets the presence of God. The pain doesn't magically disappear, but it no longer feels pointless. It's no longer just an empty void of suffering. In the end, Job's life is restored. He receives double what he had before. But that restoration, that happy ending, isn't the heart of the story. The heart of the story is that faith survived without any guarantees. Trust remained even without explanations, and suffering did not and could not erase his worth. The book of Job doesn't offer us easy comfort. It doesn't promise a life free from pain or a world that always operates by our definition of fairness. Instead, it asks a much harder, much more profound question. A question for all of us. Who are you when everything you rely on is gone? And can faith exist even then? Thanks so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. We'll see you in the next one.